I never thought signing good morning to a stranger would change my entire life, but that's exactly what happened on a rainy Tuesday at Giovanni's Cafe, when I greeted an elegant older woman who couldn't hear the barista calling her order. Within 24 hours, I'd been invited to Sunday dinner, kissed by the most dangerous man in New York, and discovered that kindness could be the most powerful weapon of all. My name is Emma Clark, and I'm nobody special. I'm a 26-year-old special education teacher, living in a cramped Brooklyn apartment with my cat, Mr. Whiskers, and a mountain of student loan debt. My life is predictable. Grade papers, meal prep on Sundays, watch romantic comedies alone on Friday nights. I'd accepted that fairy tales don't happen to ordinary girls like me. Then, I met Rosa Valentino, and everything I thought I knew about destiny shattered. It started innocently enough. I was running late for work, desperately needing my morning coffee to face another day of teaching rowdy third graders. The line at Giovanni's stretched to the door, everyone hunched over their phones, ignoring the world around them. That's when I noticed her, a woman in her 60s, impeccably dressed in a cream blazer, standing at the pickup counter with growing confusion on her face. The barista was calling, "Rosa, medium cappuccino for Rosa," but she wasn't responding. The frustrated barista called louder, and I saw it immediately. The woman was watching lips, not hearing sounds. Without thinking, I stepped forward and signed, "Is your name Rosa? Your coffee is ready." Her face transformed instantly. Relief, surprise, and pure joy flooded her elegant features. She signed back quickly, thanking me profusely, explaining she'd forgotten her hearing aids at home. We chatted briefly in ASL while the other customers stared. I learned I was her first friendly interaction in weeks, where someone made the effort to communicate properly. When I finally rushed out, already late, I thought that would be the end of our encounter. I was so wrong. Hey, if you're enjoying this story so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It helps more than you know, and I have so many more stories like this to share with you. 2 days later, I found an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was thick, cream-colored stationery with elegant handwriting. "Dear Emma, you showed my mother kindness when the world offered her only frustration. Please join us for Sunday dinner so we can thank you properly. My driver will collect you at 5 p.m. Dress comfortably. Respectfully, Dante Valentino." A phone number was included at the bottom. My hands trembled as I reread the note. Valentino. I'd heard that name before. Everyone in New York had. The Valentinos weren't just wealthy. They were legendary. Whispers followed them everywhere. Powerful family connections, mysterious business dealings, politicians and police chiefs at their gatherings. My roommate Jessica had warned me once to never cross paths with anyone bearing that surname. "They're untouchable, Emma. Old money and older secrets," she'd said with unusual seriousness. Common sense screamed at me to decline politely, but Rosa's grateful smile haunted my thoughts. She'd looked so isolated, so desperate for simple human connection. I'd learned ASL because my younger brother was deaf, and using it felt as natural as breathing. How could I ignore someone who just wanted to share a meal and express gratitude? Besides, I reasoned, it was just dinner. What could possibly happen? Sunday arrived with unseasonable warmth for October. I chose a simple navy dress, nothing fancy, just respectable enough for dinner with strangers. At precisely 5 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up. The driver, an older gentleman with kind eyes and military posture, opened the door without a word. As we glided through Brooklyn toward Manhattan, my nervousness grew. We passed through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until finally turning onto a tree-lined street in the Upper East Side, where townhouses cost more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. The Valentino residence wasn't just a house, it was a statement. 4 stories of pristine brick and limestone, with iron balconies overflowing with flowers. The driver led me up marble steps to massive oak doors that opened before we could knock. Rosa stood there, radiant with excitement, hands already moving in sign language. "Emma, you came. I'm so happy." She pulled me into a warm embrace that smelled of expensive perfume and genuine affection. For a moment, I forgot to be nervous. Then I saw him, standing behind Rosa, descending the curved staircase with the confidence of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world, was the most striking man I'd ever encountered. Dante Valentino looked about 30, with dark hair perfectly styled, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes so intensely brown they seemed black. He wore a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, but it wasn't his obvious wealth or classical good looks that made my breath catch. It was the way he looked at me, surprised, curious, and something else I couldn't quite name, something that made my skin prickle with awareness. "Miss Clark," he said, his voice deep and smooth like aged whiskey. "Thank you for accepting our invitation. My mother hasn't stopped talking about you." He extended his hand. When I shook it, electricity shot up my arm. His grip was firm, warm, and lingered just a second longer than necessary. Our eyes met, and the world seemed to pause. I saw surprise flicker across his face, too, as if he'd felt the same unexpected jolt. Rosa was signing rapidly, and I had to tear my gaze away from Dante to focus on her hands. "I told him you were special. I knew it immediately. You have a beautiful soul, Emma." I blushed, unused to such direct praise. Dante watched our exchange with fascination, his eyes tracking the fluid movements of ASL with intense focus. "You're fluent," he observed, more statement than question. "My brother is deaf," I explained. "I learned as a child. It's my second language." Something shifted in his expression. Softness touched those hard features briefly. "My mother became deaf 15 years ago. Meningitis. I've learned some signs, but I'm nowhere near fluent. She's been isolated because most of our family and friends haven't bothered to learn at all." There was judgment in his tone, directed inward perhaps, and disappointment with others certainly. "Your kindness at the cafe meant more than you realize." Rosa tugged my arm, pulling me deeper into the house. The interior was breathtaking. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably belonged in museums. But Rosa ignored all the grandeur, chatting animatedly about her week, asking about my work, treating me like a cherished friend rather than a stranger. Dante followed silently, and I felt his presence like heat against my back. Dinner was served in a formal dining room with a table that could seat 20, though only 3 places were set, clustered intimately at one end. The meal was extraordinary. Homemade pasta, perfectly seasoned chicken piccata, vegetables that actually tasted like they'd been grown in soil rather than manufactured in labs. Rosa had cooked everything herself, she signed proudly. As we ate, I translated conversation between mother and son, facilitating a depth of communication I sensed they hadn't shared in years. Dante's eyes never left my face when I signed. I tried to ignore how that attention made my pulse race. "Tell me about your students," Dante said during the main course. I lit up immediately, describing my third graders with genuine affection. I told him about Marcus, who struggled with reading but could solve complex math problems in his head, and little Sophia, who wrote poetry that made me cry. I explained how every child learns differently, how traditional education fails so many kids, how my job was finding the key that unlocked each unique mind. Dante listened with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. "You love what you do," he said simply. "I do," I confirmed. "It doesn't pay well, and some days I want to tear my hair out, but yes, I love it." "That's rare," he said quietly. "Most people I know do what's expected, not what fulfills them." "What do you do?" I asked before I could stop myself. His smile was enigmatic. "I manage the family business. Import-export, real estate, investments. It's complicated and often tedious." The way he said it made me think there was much more to the story, but I didn't push. Some instinct warned me not to dig too deeply into Dante Valentino's business affairs. As dessert was served, tiramisu that tasted like heaven, Rosa suddenly stood and signed something that made Dante's eyes widen. "What did she say?" I asked, noticing his reaction. He cleared his throat, looking momentarily uncomfortable. "She said she has a headache and needs to rest. She's asking if I'll show you the garden before the driver takes you home." His tone suggested his mother was being about as subtle as a sledgehammer. Rosa kissed my cheek, made me promise to visit again, and disappeared upstairs with a smile that told me exactly what she was thinking. I felt my face heat with embarrassment. Dante stood, amusement dancing in his eyes. "My mother is many things, but subtle isn't one of them. You don't have to see the garden if you're uncomfortable." "I'd like to see it," I said, surprising myself. The truth was, I wasn't ready to leave yet. Despite my better judgment, despite every warning bell in my head, I wanted more time in Dante Valentino's presence. The garden was accessed through French doors off the dining room. October evening air carried a chill, and I shivered slightly. Without a word, Dante shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. It was warm from his body and smelled incredible. Sandalwood, citrus, and something uniquely him. I had to resist the urge to bury my face in the fabric. The garden was a secret oasis in the middle of Manhattan. Tall brick walls ensured privacy, while strategically placed lights illuminated paths winding through carefully cultivated flower beds. A fountain bubbled in the center, its gentle music adding to the otherworldly atmosphere. We walked in silence initially, and I was acutely aware of how close he was. His hand occasionally brushed my lower back when guiding me around a corner, sending shivers through me that had nothing to do with the cold. "My mother loves you," Dante said finally. We'd stopped near the fountain, and he turned to face me fully. "In 2 hours, you've made her happier than I've seen her in years. Do you know how rare that is?" "Rosa is easy to love," I said honestly. "She's warm and genuine, like you," he said quietly. The way he looked at me made my heart hammer. "Do you have any idea how extraordinary you are, Emma Clark?" "I'm really not," I protested. "I'm completely ordinary. I'm a teacher who lives paycheck to paycheck, watches too much Netflix, and whose biggest accomplishment last week was successfully repotting a plant without killing it." He stepped closer. We were inches apart now, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "You see a stranger struggling and help without hesitation. You dedicate your life to helping children others have given up on. You learned an entire language out of love for your brother. You're generous, kind, and so beautiful you take my breath away." His hand came up, fingers gently brushing my cheek. "Trust me, Emma. You're anything but ordinary." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His thumb traced my jawline with aching tenderness. "I shouldn't do this," he murmured, more to himself than me. "You're too good, too pure for someone like me. But God help me. I can't resist." He kissed me, slowly, carefully, like I was something precious that might break. His lips were soft and warm, moving against mine with a gentleness that made my knees weak. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt, every nerve ending in my body suddenly alive. The kiss deepened, and I felt him shudder, pulling me closer until no space remained between us. It was perfect and terrifying, and absolutely intoxicating. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "Emma," he whispered, my name sounding like a prayer. "What are you doing to me?" "I could ask you the same thing," I managed, my voice shaky. Reality was starting to creep back in, bringing questions with it. "Dante, I don't even know you. This is crazy." "I know," he agreed, "but I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you walked through my door. Tell me you feel it too, this connection." I wanted to deny it, to be sensible and cautious, but I'd never lied well. "I feel it," I admitted, "but I don't understand it. Things like this don't happen to people like me." "What kind of person are you?" he asked, genuine curiosity in his tone. "Normal, safe, boring." I stepped back, needing distance to think clearly. "You're Dante Valentino. I've heard the rumors, the whispers. Your world and mine don't mix." His expression shuddered immediately, walls slamming into place. "What exactly have you heard?" I chose my words carefully. "That your family is powerful, connected, that people don't cross the Valentinos, and that asking too many questions is unwise." I met his eyes steadily. "I'm not stupid, Dante. I know there's more to your import-export business than legitimate transactions." Silence stretched between us, heavy and charged. Finally, he spoke, his voice careful and controlled. "My family's history is complicated. Yes, we have connections. Yes, we operate in gray areas sometimes. But I'm not a monster, Emma. Everything I do, every decision I make, is to protect the people I love and to honor the legacy my father left me. I've never hurt an innocent person. I've never taken something that wasn't offered or owed. But you've hurt people," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Yes," he admitted without hesitation. "I've hurt people who hurt others first. People who prey on the weak, who traffic in misery. In my world, sometimes violence is the only language certain men understand." He stepped closer again, intensity radiating from him. "But I would never, ever let that world touch you. You're light, Emma, pure light. And I've spent so long in darkness that being near you feels like redemption." I I should have run. Every self-preservation instinct screamed at me to call a cab and never look back, but something in his eyes held me captive. I saw loneliness there, and pain, and a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, he could be more than what circumstances had made him. I recognized that look because I'd seen it in my students' eyes countless times, the belief that someone might see beyond the surface to the person underneath. "I need to think," I said finally. "This is too much. Too fast." He nodded, disappointment flickering across his features before he masked it. "Of course. I'll have Antonio drive you home." He started to walk away, then turned back. "Emma, thank you. For dinner. For being kind to my mother. For seeing me as more than a name and reputation. Whatever you decide, that meant everything." The drive home was quiet, my mind spinning with conflicting thoughts. Dante's jacket was still around my shoulders, and I couldn't bring myself to take it off. Back in my tiny apartment, Mr. Whiskers meowed indignantly at my late return. I fed him absently, then collapsed on my worn couch, trying to process the evening. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. "I know you need time, but I also know I've never felt this way before. Whatever happens, you've already changed me. Sweet dreams, Emma. D." I stared at the message for a long time before finally responding. "Sweet dreams, Dante." It wasn't a commitment, but it wasn't goodbye either. It was possibility, fragile and terrifying and impossibly exciting. The next week passed in a surreal haze. Dante texted every morning, simple messages wishing me a good day, asking about my students, sharing random observations that made me smile. He never pushed, never demanded more than I was willing to give. We talked on the phone twice, conversations that stretched past midnight, covering everything from childhood memories to philosophical debates about morality and choice. He was intelligent, surprisingly funny, and more vulnerable than I'd expected. He told me about his father's death when Dante was 21, how he'd been thrust into leadership before he was ready, how the weight of responsibility sometimes crushed him. I told him about my parents' divorce when I was 12, about raising my younger brother when my mother fell apart, about choosing teaching because I wanted to be the adult I'd needed as a child. We shared our scars, and somehow, through phone lines and text messages, built something that felt dangerously real. Rosa called too, using a video relay service that allowed her to sign to an interpreter who voiced her words to me. She invited me to lunch, to shopping, to her book club. I accepted the lunch invitation, meeting her at a small Italian restaurant in the village. For 2 hours, we signed and laughed, talking about everything except her son. She showed me pictures of Dante as a child, a serious little boy with 2 old eyes even then. "He carries too much," she signed. "He needs someone to help him remember joy. I think maybe that person is you." "Rosa, I barely know him," I protested. "The heart knows," she signed simply. "Trust it." On Friday evening, Dante called with an unexpected invitation. "There's a charity gala tomorrow night. Children's Hospital fundraiser. I know it's last minute, but would you come with me? I promise I'll behave like a perfect gentleman." I could hear the smile in his voice, the hint of mischief that appeared when he was relaxed. "I don't have anything to wear to a gala," I said, already knowing I'd say yes, but stalling anyway. "Already handled," he replied smoothly. "A dress will be delivered to your apartment tomorrow at noon. If you hate it, we'll find something else. Emma, I want to show you off. I want everyone to see the amazing woman who's turned my world upside down. Please say yes." How could I refuse? "Yes," I whispered, excitement and terror warring in my chest. The dress arrived as promised, and when I opened the box, I gasped. It was emerald green silk, simple but elegant, with a neckline that was modest yet flattering. It fit perfectly, and I wondered how he'd known my size. Matching shoes and a delicate gold necklace were included. No price tags, but I knew the ensemble cost more than my monthly rent. For a moment, I felt like Cinderella, which made me nervous. Fairy tales weren't real, and Cinderella stories usually ended with harsh wake-up calls. Dante picked me up personally, driving a sleek black Aston Martin that probably cost as much as a house. When I opened my apartment door, his reaction made every insecurity vanish. He stared openly, something like awe in his expression. "You're breathtaking," he said, his voice rough. "Emma, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." I blushed furiously. "You clean up pretty well yourself." That was an understatement. Dante in a tuxedo should have been illegal. The formal wear emphasized his broad shoulders and lean build, while the bow tie and slicked-back hair gave him an old Hollywood glamour that made my mouth go dry. The gala was held at the Plaza Hotel, and stepping into that ballroom was like entering another universe. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, a live orchestra played classical music, and people who appeared regularly on Forbes lists mingled with champagne glasses. I felt completely out of my depth until Dante's hand found mine, his thumb stroking reassuringly across my knuckles. "Stay with me," he murmured in my ear. "Everyone else here is just noise. All I see is you." We mingled, Dante introducing me to various people whose names I immediately forgot. I noticed how people reacted to him, respectful, slightly nervous, eager to please. Several times men approached to discuss business, but Dante dismissed them curtly. "Not tonight," he'd say firmly. "Tonight is personal." The message was clear. I was important enough to take priority over everything else. We were at the bar getting drinks, when a woman's sharp voice cut through the ambient noise. "Dante, I didn't expect to see you here." She was stunning, early 30s, platinum blonde, designer gown that probably cost 5 figures, and cold blue eyes that raked over me with open disdain. And with company. How unexpected. Dante's jaw tightened. "Victoria," he said coolly. "Emma, this is Victoria Castellano. Victoria, Emma Clark." Recognition flickered through me. Castellano. Another name everyone knew. Another powerful family. Victoria extended a perfectly manicured hand, her grip surprisingly strong when I shook it. "Emma Clark," she repeated slowly. "I've never heard Dante mention you. How exactly do you two know each other?" "Emma is important to me," Dante said before I could respond. His tone was icy, protective. "That's all you need to know." Victoria's smile was sharp as glass. "Of course, how lovely." She turned her attention to me fully. "You're very pretty in that simple way. Tell me, what do you do?" "I'm a teacher," I said, refusing to be intimidated. "Third grade special education." "Oh, one word. Loaded with condescension. How noble. Public service and all that. I'm sure it's very fulfilling even if it doesn't pay well." She turned back to Dante. "Darling, we really must discuss the Henderson contract. Your office keeps dodging my calls." "There's nothing to discuss," Dante replied flatly. The answer was no. It remains no. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger. "Your father would have understood the value of that partnership." "My father is dead," Dante said, each word sharp as a blade. "I make the decisions now, and I've decided our families won't be doing business together. Excuse us." He guided me away firmly, his hand warm and protective on my lower back. "Sorry about that," he said once we were out of earshot. "Victoria and I have history. Our families tried to arrange a marriage years ago. I refused. She didn't take it well. She's clearly still interested," I observed, trying to keep jealousy out of my voice and failing. Dante stopped walking and turned to face me fully. "I don't care about Victoria Castellano. I never have, not romantically. She's ambitious and ruthless, and she sees relationships as business transactions. You're the complete opposite. Genuine, warm, caring. You see people, not opportunities." He cupped my face gently. "You're the one I want, Emma. Only you." Before I could respond, the lights dimmed, and an announcement asked everyone to take their seats for dinner and the fundraising auction. Dante led me to a table near the front, where we joined several other couples. Throughout dinner, his attention never wavered from me. He seemed genuinely uninterested in networking or schmoozing, content to make me laugh with whispered commentary about the ridiculous auction items and pretentious speeches. When a weekend at a Tuscan villa came up for auction, Dante bid aggressively, driving the price up to an absurd amount. "Dante, what are you doing?" I hissed. "That's an insane amount of money." "It's for the children's hospital," he said with a shrug. "Besides, I'm imagining taking you there." Vineyards, ancient architecture, no interruptions, worth every penny. He won the bid, and the room applauded. I sat there, stunned, realizing this man had just spent a fortune partly for charity, but mostly to imagine a future with me. The evening ended with dancing. Dante pulled me onto the floor, as the orchestra played something slow and romantic. His hand spanned my lower back, holding me close as we swayed together. "Thank you for tonight," he said softly, "for letting me show you this part of my world." "It's intimidating," I admitted. "Everyone here is so wealthy, So powerful. I feel like an imposter. You're the most real person in this room, he countered. Everyone else is playing roles, wearing masks. But you're exactly who you are, and that's extraordinary. He leaned down, his breath warm against my ear. I'm falling for you, Emma Clark. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I can't help it. You've gotten under my skin, into my head, into my heart. My breath caught. I knew I should be cautious, should protect myself. But looking into his eyes, I saw truth there, and vulnerability, and hope. I'm falling too, I whispered, and it terrifies me. Me too, he admitted, but maybe the best things are a little terrifying. Then he kissed me, right there in the middle of the ballroom, with hundreds of people watching, and I didn't care. I kissed him back, pouring every confused emotion into it, and felt something inside me click into place. This was right, against all logic. Despite every reason to be careful, this felt like destiny. We didn't notice Victoria watching from the edge of the dance floor, her face twisted with rage. We didn't see her pull out her phone and make a call, her voice too low for anyone nearby to hear. We were too lost in each other to sense the danger building like a storm on the horizon. Sometimes, the best moments come right before everything falls apart. The week following the gala felt like a dream. Dante took me to dinner at intimate restaurants where chefs greeted him by name. We spent hours walking through Central Park, talking about everything and nothing. He came to my school one afternoon, bringing pizza for my entire class, and patiently letting 28-year-olds ask him a million questions. Watching him crouch down to a child's level, giving each student genuine attention, made me fall even harder. This man, supposedly dangerous and feared, was gentle with children and kind to my students who others often dismissed. Rosa invited me to dinner twice more, and each time I saw how my presence brought joy to their small family. Dante and his mother communicated more freely with me there to facilitate, and their bond deepened visibly. "You're a gift," Rosa signed to me after one dinner. "You've given me back my son, but perfect moments never last." On Thursday evening, I was grading papers in my apartment when someone pounded on my door. Hard, aggressive knocking that made my heart race with alarm. "Emma Clark! Open up! Police!" My hands shook as I unlocked the door. 2 detectives stood there, badges displayed, faces stern. "Miss Clark, I'm Detective Morris. This is Detective Chen. We need to ask you some questions about Dante Valentino." Everything inside me went cold. "What about him? Is he okay?" "He's fine," Detective Morris said, her tone flat. "May we come in?" It wasn't really a question. They entered before I could respond, their eyes scanning my small apartment with professional assessment. "How long have you known Mr. Valentino?" "About 2 weeks," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why?" Detective Chen pulled out a tablet, showing me photographs. "Do you know any of these men?" They were surveillance photos, men in expensive suits entering buildings, sitting in restaurants, standing on street corners. I recognized none of them. "No. Should I?" "They're all under investigation for various crimes," Detective Morris explained. "Racketeering, money laundering, extortion, loan sharking, and they all have one thing in common. They work for the Valentino organization." I felt sick. Intellectually, I'd known Dante wasn't exactly legitimate, but hearing it stated so bluntly, seeing evidence of criminal activity, made it horribly real. "I don't know anything about Dante's business," I said quietly. "Maybe not yet," Detective Chen said, "but you will. That's how it works. They pull you in slowly, make you complicit, and before you know it, you're an accessory. Is that what you want? To throw away your teaching career, maybe face jail time, for a man you've known 2 weeks? Dante wouldn't do that to me," I protested, but doubt crept into my voice. Detective Morris leaned forward, her expression almost sympathetic. "Miss Clark, you seem like a nice person. Good job, helping kids, living a clean life. Don't ruin it for someone like Valentino. These men are dangerous. They use people, especially vulnerable women, and discard them when they're no longer useful. You're not special to him. You're just the latest distraction. Get out," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my tone. "Unless you're arresting me, leave now." They exchanged glances. "We're trying to help you," Detective Chen said. "I didn't ask for your help. Please leave." I held the door open, refusing to back down despite my racing heart. They left finally, but Detective Morris paused in the doorway. "When this ends badly, And it will. Don't say we didn't warn you. After they left, I collapsed on my couch, mind spinning. I wanted to call Dante immediately, but part of me needed to think first. Everything the detective said echoed my own fears. I was ordinary Emma Clark, teacher and nobody, getting involved with a man whose world operated by rules I didn't understand. What if I was being naive? What if this perfect connection was just manipulation? My phone rang. Dante. I stared at it, torn between answering and ignoring. Finally, I picked up. Hey, I said, trying to sound normal. What's wrong? He asked immediately. I can hear it in your voice. Emma, talk to me. His concern nearly broke me. Detectives came to my apartment. They asked about you, showed me pictures of people they say work for you. They said I was putting myself in danger, that you'd use me and throw me away. My voice cracked. Dante, I need you to be honest. Completely honest. What exactly is your business? Silence stretched for long seconds. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I'll come over. Some things need to be said face to face. 20 minutes. He hung up before I could argue. Those 20 minutes were the longest of my life. When he arrived, he looked stressed in a way I'd never seen. His hair was disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it, and his tie was loose. Emma, he started, but I held up a hand. Just tell me the truth. All of it. He sank onto my couch, and I sat across from him, maintaining distance. My family has been in New York for 4 generations, he began. We started as immigrants, working legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction, importing goods from Italy. But as the family grew, so did our reach. My grandfather made deals with people he shouldn't have. He provided services that operated outside the law, protection for businesses the police ignored, loans for people banks wouldn't help, solving problems through methods that weren't exactly legal. I listened silently, my heart sinking with each word. By the time my father inherited everything, we were deeply embedded in that world. He tried to legitimize as much as possible, moving money into legal ventures, cutting ties with the worst elements. But you can't completely escape that history. When he died and I took over, I continued his work. I've closed down the loan sharking operations. I've refused to get involved in drugs or human trafficking, which made me enemies among other families who see those as lucrative. I've tried to protect our legitimate businesses and slowly phase out anything I find morally reprehensible. But you're still involved in illegal activities, I said flatly. Yes, he admitted. I won't lie to you. Some of our income comes from protection services, essentially security for businesses in neighborhoods the police don't adequately serve. Some comes from gambling operations. Some comes from importing goods that may not always go through proper customs channels. I'm not innocent, Emma. I never claimed to be. So the detectives were right, I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. You're a criminal. By the letter of the law, yes, he said, his voice raw. But I've never hurt anyone who didn't hurt others first. I've protected families from predators. I've kept neighborhoods safe when no one else would. I've given jobs to people with records who deserve second chances. The world isn't black and white, Emma. It's all gray, and I'm trying to navigate it the best way I know how. And me? I asked, the question I most feared. Am I just a distraction? A way to look respectable? He was across the room in an instant, kneeling before me, taking my hands in his. You're the most real, most important thing in my life. Emma, I could have any woman who'd give me respectability. Victoria Castellano practically throws herself at me because marrying me would unite 2 powerful families. But I don't want her. I don't want anyone but you. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be more than my father's legacy. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I'm so scared, Dante. Scared of your world. Scared of losing myself. Scared that caring about you will destroy everything I've built. I know, he whispered, wiping my tears with his thumbs. I'm scared too. Scared that you'll realize you deserve better and walk away. Scared that my world will taint you. Scared that loving you will put you in danger. He pressed his forehead to mine. But I'm more scared of losing you. Emma, I love you. I know it's too soon, and I know it's complicated, but I love you with everything I am. I love you too, I sobbed. That's what makes this so hard. We held each other while I cried, while he whispered promises about protection and safety and building a better life. Eventually, exhausted, I pulled back. I need time, I said, to think, to process all this. Can you give me that? Pain flashed across his face. But he nodded. Take whatever time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. Or if you decide you can't do this, I'll understand. I'll hate it, but I'll understand. He kissed my forehead gently, then left, and I'd never felt so alone. I called in sick the next day, unable to face my cheerful students when my world was crumbling. Jessica found me on the couch surrounded by tissues, still in my pajamas at 2 p.m. Okay, that's it, she declared. I'm staging an intervention. What happened? I told her everything. Meeting Rosa, falling for Dante, the gala, the detective's visit, Dante's confession. She listened without interrupting, which was unusual for my normally opinionated roommate. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So you fell in love with a mobster, she finally said. When you say it like that, it sounds insane. It is insane, she agreed. But love usually is. Question is, do you trust him? Not his world or his business, but him as a person. Do you trust his intentions toward you? Did I? I thought about the way Dante looked at me, like I was precious and irreplaceable. The way he listened when I talked about my students, genuinely interested. How he'd learned to sign better to communicate with his mother. His gentleness, his humor, his vulnerability. Yes, I said finally. I trust him. He's a good man caught in a complicated situation. Then you have your answer, Jessica said simply. Look, I'm not going to tell you this is smart or safe, but I've known you for 5 years, and I've never seen you light up the way you do when you talk about him. Maybe he's worth the risk. Maybe love is always worth the risk. Her words stayed with me. That evening I went to visit my brother Marcus. At 22, he was in college studying computer science and living in a dorm in Queens. I told him about Dante, about my dilemma. Marcus was quiet, thoughtful, and often saw things I missed. He signed his response carefully. Remember when I was 16 and wanted to try skateboarding? You were terrified I'd get hurt, that I couldn't do it because of my hearing, but I wanted it so badly. And you said something I've never forgotten. Fear is a reason to be careful, not a reason to give up on things that matter. Is Dante something that matters? Yes, I signed back immediately. Then be careful, but don't give up, Marcus signed. Also, I want to meet this guy who makes my sister cry. I laughed through fresh tears. Deal. That night, I texted Dante. Can we talk tomorrow? In person? His response came immediately. Anytime, anywhere. Just say when. We met at a small park near my apartment. Neutral territory. It was Saturday, and families were everywhere. Kids on playgrounds, couples walking dogs, the normal rhythm of ordinary lives. Dante looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept. Emma, he breathed when he saw me, like my name was a lifeline. We sat on a bench overlooking a small pond. I've been thinking, I started, about everything you told me, about the detective's warnings, about what being with you means. And, his voice was carefully neutral, but I saw fear in his eyes. And I love you, I said simply. I love you enough to try, but I need boundaries, Dante. I need to know I'm not going to become complicit in things that violate my morals. I need to know you're actively working toward legitimate business, and I need you to promise me that if things get dangerous, you'll let me walk away to protect myself. I can't promise the last thing, he said immediately. If you're in danger because of me, I'll do everything in my power to protect you. I can't promise to let you walk into harm's way. Then promise me you'll do everything possible to keep me out of danger in the first place, I amended. That I can promise, he said solemnly. Emma, my business dealings won't touch you. You'll never be asked to do anything illegal or morally questionable. And I'm already working with lawyers to legitimize everything. It's a slow process, but it's happening. Within 5 years, Valentino Enterprises will be completely clean. That's my goal, and you make me more committed to it. Okay, I said, feeling peace settle over me. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if an ordinary teacher and a complicated businessman can make something extraordinary. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face. Emma Clark, you just made me the happiest man in New York. He pulled me into a kiss that was tender and desperate and full of promise. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he laughed. My mother is going to be insufferable about this. She's been texting me hourly, asking if I've screwed everything up beyond repair. Tell Rosa she can start planning that DIL welcome party, I said, deliberately using the acronym from when we first met. She's probably already ordered invitations, he said dryly. We spent the rest of the day together, walking through the city like normal couples, holding hands and stealing kisses. It felt like a new beginning, fragile but hopeful. That evening, we went to dinner at a small Chinese restaurant where the owner greeted Dante warmly and brought us extra dumplings for the beautiful lady. We talked about the future, careful plans, realistic goals, and dreams that felt possible rather than naive. "I want you to meet my family," I said over lo mein. "My parents, my brother properly, my grandmother who's going to interrogate you mercilessly. I'd be honored," he said sincerely. "And I want you to meet more of my family. I have cousins, aunts, uncles. They're going to love you." We were leaving the restaurant when a black SUV pulled up abruptly. The back door opened, and Victoria Castellano stepped out. She wasn't alone. 3 men in suits emerged behind her, all with the predatory stillness of professional enforcers. "Dante," Victoria said, her voice syrupy sweet. "We need to talk." Dante stepped in front of me immediately, his body language shifting into something dangerous. "Victoria, whatever business you think we have, it can wait. Emma and I are leaving." "I don't think so," Victoria said. Her smile was cold. "You've been very rude, Dante, refusing my calls, embarrassing me at the gala, throwing away a valuable alliance. My father is quite displeased." "I don't care about your father's feelings," Dante said flatly. "The Castellano family's business practices are despicable. I want nothing to do with you." Victoria's eyes flickered to me. Is it because of her? This nobody teacher? Really, Dante, I expected better taste. She can't offer you anything. No connections, no money, no power. She's dead weight. "Watch your mouth," Dante growled, his voice deadly. "Emma is worth 100 of you. Now get out of my way before this gets ugly." "I don't think you understand your position," Victoria said. One of her men stepped forward, hand moving toward his jacket. "You're going to get in the car. We're going to have a conversation with my father. And your little girlfriend is going to wait here very quietly, or she's going to have a very bad evening." I felt ice in my veins. This was the world Dante had warned me about, and it was terrifying. But I refused to be a victim. "I've already called 911, I lied, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Police are on their way. Unless you want multiple witnesses seeing you kidnap someone in the middle of Manhattan, I suggest you leave." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Brave. Stupid, but brave." She looked at Dante. "This isn't over. You've made an enemy of the wrong family." "I've dealt with worse," Dante replied coldly. "Leave. Now." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Victoria laughed, a brittle sound. "Fine, but you'll regret this, Dante. Both of you." She climbed back into the SUV and it pulled away, leaving us standing on the sidewalk, my heart pounding so hard I felt sick. Dante immediately pulled out his phone, making rapid calls. "We're compromised. Yes, both of us. Full security protocol. I need 2 cars now." He hung up and turned to me, checking me over like I might be injured. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine," I said, though my hands were shaking. "Dante, what just happened?" "Victoria tried to intimidate me into a business deal her father wants," he explained grimly. "She's more ruthless than I realized. Emma, I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I wanted to avoid." Within minutes, 2 black cars arrived. Dante's security team emerged. Serious men who moved with military precision. "We're taking you both to a secure location," one explained. "Just precautionary." The rest of the night was a blur. We were driven to a townhouse I'd never seen before. Upscale, and clearly a safe house. Security personnel checked every room while Dante made more phone calls, his voice low and commanding. Finally, near midnight, he found me in the sitting room, staring out a window at the city below. "I'm having a meeting tomorrow with the Castellano family," he said quietly, "making it clear that any threat to you means war. They won't bother you again, Emma. I promise." "How can you promise that?" I asked, exhaustion making me blunt. "You can't control what they do." "No, but I can make the consequences so severe they won't dare try," he replied. "This is my world, Emma. I know how to navigate it, how to protect what's mine. I'm not property to be protected," I said, frustrated. "I'm a person, a partner. Treat me like one." He looked taken aback, then nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm sorry. What do you need from me?" "Honesty. Information. Don't shut me out to protect me. Let me make informed decisions." I met his eyes steadily. "I'm in this with you, Dante. but that means we face things together. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, relief, and deepening love. Together, he agreed. I promise. We spent the night at the safe house, sleeping in each other's arms, both afraid to let go. Despite the fear and drama, I felt certain of one thing. Whatever came next, we'd face it as partners, and that made all the difference. The meeting with the Castellano family took place in a private room at an expensive Italian restaurant. Dante insisted I stay at the safe house with security, but after a tense argument, we compromised. I'd wait in a separate room with guards, close enough to reach if needed, but not directly in the line of fire. If you're making decisions that affect my life, I deserve to be nearby, I'd argued, and he'd reluctantly agreed. The wait was agonizing. 2 of Dante's men, Marco and James, stood by the door, alert and professional. James tried to make small talk, but my nerves made conversation impossible. After 90 minutes, Dante emerged, his expression carefully controlled. It's handled, he said simply. Victoria and her father understand that you're off limits. Any action against you would be considered an act of war. They're not stupid enough to trigger that. What did you offer them? I asked, knowing negotiations always involved give and take. Nothing, he said flatly. I made it clear that their business practices, specifically their involvement in human trafficking, are unacceptable. I've already contacted federal authorities with evidence. They now understand they have bigger problems than their bruised pride. I stared at him. You turned them into the FBI? I gave evidence about their trafficking operation. He corrected. I won't tolerate that particular evil, even among supposed allies. Some lines can't be crossed. His eyes met mine. You asked me to work toward legitimacy. This is part of that. Cutting ties with families that deal in human misery. Pride swelled in my chest. This was the man I'd fallen for. Someone trying to do better despite his circumstances. Thank you, I said quietly, for listening to me. Always, he replied, pulling me into an embrace. You make me better, Emma. Don't ever doubt that. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least our new version of normal. I went back to teaching, though Dante insisted on security driving me to and from school, which my students found endlessly fascinating. Miss Clark, is that your bodyguard? Little Sophia asked one morning, pointing at Marco waiting by the black sedan. He's a friend making sure I stay safe, I explained diplomatically. Like a superhero? Marcus asked, eyes wide. Something like that, I agreed, hiding a smile. Dante started coming to Sunday dinners at my grandmother's apartment, where she interrogated him thoroughly about his intentions, his financial stability, and whether he knew how to treat a woman properly. He answered every question with patience and sincerity, winning her over when he insisted on helping wash dishes and complimented her homemade pierogi. He's a good one, Grandma whispered to me in the kitchen. Respect in his eyes. That's how you know. I met more of Dante's extended family at a massive Sunday gathering at Rose's house. The Valentino clan was huge, cousins ranging from toddlers to seniors, aunts who pinched cheeks, uncles who told inappropriate jokes. They welcomed me warmly, though I sensed some surprise at Dante's choice. I wasn't from their world, wasn't Italian, wasn't connected, but Rosa's clear approval smoothed any potential friction. This is Emma, she'd sign proudly to everyone, the woman who saved my son. I didn't save anyone, I'd protest, but Dante would just smile and kiss my temple. We fell into a rhythm. Weeknight dinners at casual restaurants, weekends split between our families, late-night phone calls when he had business meetings. He was transparent about his schedule, explaining when he had dealings that might involve gray areas, and reassuring me that the legitimization process continued. I met with lawyers today, he'd report. We're restructuring the importing business to ensure full customs compliance. It means less profit short-term, but it's the right move. I watched him carry the weight of transforming a family legacy, seeing the stress it caused. Some family members resisted the changes, wanting to maintain more profitable illegal operations. Dante stood firm, sometimes coming home exhausted from arguments with cousins who thought he was being weak. They don't understand, he'd say, collapsing on my couch. Going legitimate isn't weakness, it's survival. Law enforcement tactics are getting better. Staying in the old ways means eventual prison or death. You're doing the right thing, I'd reassure him, running fingers through his hair. Change is always hard. With you, it feels possible, he'd murmur, pulling me closer. 3 months into our relationship, I met with Detective Morris again. She appeared at my school during lunch break, flashing her badge at the security desk. "Miss Clark, a few minutes?" We spoke in my empty classroom, surrounded by colorful bulletin boards and tiny chairs. "I'll be honest," Detective Morris said. "I didn't think you'd still be with Valentino. Most civilians get scared off quickly. But I've been watching, and I notice he's making changes. Legitimate changes. He's trying," I said carefully. "I know you see him as a criminal, but he's more complex than that." "Maybe," she conceded, "but complexity doesn't erase past actions. Still, if he's genuinely going straight, that's good for everyone. Just be careful, Miss Clark. Transformation takes time, and old enemies don't always let go easily." "I understand," I said. "Thank you for the warning." After she left, I sat at my desk, thinking about her words. She was right. Change took time, and danger still lurked in shadows. But I'd made my choice, and I didn't regret it. That evening, Dante surprised me with dinner reservations at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The November air was crisp, but heat lamps kept us comfortable as we ate under string lights. "I have something for you," he said after dessert, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "Dante, it's not what you think," he said quickly, smiling at my panic. "Not yet, anyway. Though when I do ask that question, I hope you'll say yes." He opened the box, revealing a delicate gold bracelet with a small charm, a tiny book engraved with the word, "Teacher." I saw this and thought of you. Everything important in my life now connects back to that moment when a kind teacher took time to help my mother. This is my promise. I'll spend every day trying to deserve the gift you've given me. Tears blurred my vision as he fastened it around my wrist. "I love you," I whispered. "Even when it's complicated and scary, I love you." "I love you too," he replied. "And I promise, Emma, I'll build a life we can both be proud of." As we left the restaurant, walking hand in hand through the city streets, I felt hopeful. We had challenges ahead, legal transformations, old enemies, the constant navigation of two very different worlds. But we also had something powerful. Genuine love, mutual respect, and shared determination to build something good from complicated circumstances. Winter arrived with unexpected challenges. Just before Christmas, federal authorities launched a major investigation into organized crime families across New York. The Castellano family was hit hardest. Arrests, raids, assets frozen. But the investigation's reach extended to anyone connected, including the Valentinos. Dante wasn't arrested, but he was questioned repeatedly, his businesses audited, his finances scrutinized. The stress was enormous. I watched him age years and weeks, the weight of protecting his family and employees crushing him. "If they find anything irregular, everyone suffers," he explained one exhausted evening. "My cousins who work in the restaurants, the guys doing construction, Mom's pension, everything could be seized. I'm trying to prove we're clean, but years of old business make that complicated." "What can I do?" I asked, feeling helpless. "Be here," he said simply. "You're the only thing keeping me sane." I threw myself into supporting him however possible. I brought dinner when he worked late with lawyers. I sat with Rosa when she worried about her son, translating her concerns and his reassurances. I researched legal options, connecting Dante with a professor from my college who specialized in white-collar criminal defense. Slowly, we built a case demonstrating the Valentino family's legitimate transformation. The hearing took place in February, a cold day when snow threatened. Dante wore his most conservative suit, looking every inch the respectable businessman. His lawyers presented evidence of dissolved illegal operations, legitimate business restructuring, cooperation with authorities regarding other families' crimes. Character witnesses, including Rosa, several community leaders, and surprisingly Detective Morris, testified about Dante's efforts toward legitimacy and his positive community impact. I sat in the courtroom, holding Rosa's hand, silently praying. When the judge finally spoke, declaring no charges would be filed and commending the Valentino family's cooperation and transformation, I cried with relief. Rosa sobbed beside me, her hand shaking as she signed "Thank God" repeatedly. Outside the courthouse, Dante found us on the steps. He looked lighter, like a massive burden had lifted. "It's over," he said, pulling us both into an embrace. "We're clean. Officially, completely clean." "What now?" I asked. "Now we build the future," he replied, his smile genuine and free. "The right way." That evening, he took me to Rosa's house for a family celebration. The entire Valentino clan gathered, toasting success and new beginnings. Dante's uncle Paolo, who'd initially resisted the changes, approached us with grudging respect. "You were right, nephew," he admitted. "Going legitimate was harder, but we're still standing. That's what matters." As the party continued around us, Dante pulled me aside into the quiet garden where we'd first kissed months ago. Snow dusted the bare branches, and our breath formed clouds in the cold air. "Emma Clark," he said, taking my hands. "When I met you, I was trapped by my family's history, convinced I'd never be more than my father's legacy. But you saw something better in me. You believed I could change, could be good, and that belief gave me strength I didn't know I had." "Dante," I started, but he gently placed a finger on my lips. "Let me finish," he said, smiling. "You've stood by me through federal investigations, threats from enemies, the collision of our completely different worlds. You've loved me at my worst and pushed me toward my best. I can't imagine my future without you in it." He dropped to one knee, and I gasped. From his pocket, he pulled out a ring box. "Emma Clark, will you marry me? Will you build this new, legitimate, beautiful life with me?" The ring was perfect, a simple solitaire diamond that caught the garden lights, elegant without being ostentatious. Through tears, I nodded. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, absolutely yes." He stood, sliding the ring onto my finger, then kissed me deeply. From inside the house, I heard cheering. Apparently, our private moment had an audience. Rosa burst through the doors, already crying happy tears, signing, "Finally, I've been waiting." Dante laughed, keeping his arm around me as family poured into the garden to celebrate. That night, surrounded by people who'd become my second family, wearing a ring that promised forever, I reflected on how a simple act of kindness had transformed everything. I'd signed "Good Morning" to a lonely woman, and it had led to love, challenge, growth, and a future I couldn't have imagined. We married in the spring, a small ceremony in Rosa's garden with close family and friends. I wore a simple ivory dress that Rosa had helped me choose, and Dante couldn't stop smiling the entire day. My brother Marcus served as a groomsman, and he and Dante had developed a genuine friendship, communicating in the mixture of sign and speech that characterized our blended families. My grandmother cried through the entire ceremony, and even stoic Uncle Paolo got misty-eyed. Detective Morris sent a card, surprisingly. "Congratulations on your marriage. Wishing you both happiness and continued legitimacy." It made me laugh, and Dante framed it, calling it the most backhanded well wishes ever received. Life settled into something beautiful and normal. Dante transformed the Valentino businesses completely. The restaurants thrived under proper management. The construction company won legitimate contracts. The import business flourished with full legal compliance. He was busier than ever, but it was honest work that let him sleep peacefully at night. "No more looking over my shoulder," he told me once. "No more wondering when everything will collapse. This is real, Emma. We built something real." I continued teaching, though we'd moved into a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn, Dante's engagement present. My commute was shorter, and I had space for a home office where I developed curriculum for special needs students. Dante funded a scholarship program for underprivileged children, something that brought him deep satisfaction. "If we're going to have wealth, it should mean something," he insisted. Rosa was a constant presence, having dinner with us weekly, babysitting Mr. Whiskers when we traveled, and dropping heavy hints about grandchildren. "I'm 68, she'd sign pointedly. "I want to meet my grandchildren while I can still chase them." "We've only been married 6 months, Rosa," Dante would protest, but she'd just smile knowingly. The reconciliation I'd hoped for came gradually with the broader community. People who'd once feared the Valentino name began to see them differently, as employers who treated workers fairly, as neighbors who contributed to local causes, as a family who'd chosen redemption over reputation. It wasn't universal. Some people never forgot the past. But slowly, acceptance grew. Victoria Castellano's father was convicted of human trafficking and sentenced to 30 years. Victoria herself disappeared to Europe, the family empire crumbling. I felt no satisfaction in their downfall, only relief that their evil had been stopped. Dante testified at the trial, providing evidence that helped convict multiple traffickers. "This is what power should be used for," he said after the verdict. "Protecting the vulnerable, not exploiting them." 1 year after we met, Dante and I returned to Giovanni's cafe, the place where everything started. We ordered cappuccinos and sat at a corner table, watching people rush through their busy lives. "Do you ever regret it?" Dante asked quietly. "Signing to my mother that day? Everything that followed?" I looked at my husband. Brilliant, complex, deeply good man who'd fought his own history to build something better, and smiled. "Not for a second." "You, best thing that ever happened to me," he replied, lacing his fingers through mine. "You saved me, Emma. In every way a person can be saved." "We saved each other," I corrected. "I was living a safe, small life. You showed me that love is worth risking everything for." As we left the cafe, walking hand in hand into whatever future awaited, I thought about the journey. From strangers to lovers, from fear to trust, from complicated circumstances to genuine happiness. It hadn't been easy, and it hadn't been simple, but it had been real, and it had been worth it. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest transformations. I'd simply signed "Good morning" to a woman who needed acknowledgement. That kindness had rippled outward, changing not just 2 lives, but an entire family's trajectory. It had proven that people can change, that love can redeem, and that seeing the good in others sometimes helps them become their best selves. I'd greeted a deaf woman at a coffee shop. She'd decided I should be her daughter-in-law, and against all odds, in defiance of every logical reason to walk away, we'd built something extraordinary. A love story that transformed lives, legitimized a legacy, and proved that kindness is the most powerful force in the world. Thank you so much for being here with me through Emma and Dante's story. If you enjoyed it, I'd absolutely love it if you could hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional, inspiring stories like this one. And please, drop a comment below. Just tell me what you thought of Emma and Dante. Did their story touch your heart? I read every single comment, and your thoughts mean the world to me. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next story.